Hey there, buds. I am back with the story time, and this one gives me just like a slight bit of anxiety to even share it because this story does not put me in the smartest light or the best light, and this is not a story that I want you guys to go out there and replicate who live in illegal states, but I did want to just do a little story time describing my weed dealers in illegal states and just like kind of doing a little story time about how it was to buy weed in the South. And so I have a joint here, thought I would spark up this joint and just kind of describe a few of my weed dealers. Cheers, guys. Ugh. This dispensary did not put a good filter tip on the end of this. Like, I just can keep getting like flakes of weed in my mouth, and that is not tasty. Alright, so my very first weed dealer it just so happened to be a gay guy, and I met him through a friend in law school. I had a girlfriend and she was my smoking buddy. Like, that was the one girl that I knew smoked weed, and we would smoke together all the time, and her dealer just so happened to be this really young gay guy. I don't even know how old he was. He legitimately looked 15. He was a local in the town. Like, I went to school in a college town and there were very few locals, but he was a local there, like grew up in this town, and he was a weed dealer. I honestly think he was probably like 20 years old. He was super duper young, but he was super nice. He brought really quality weed. This was the first time I was ever buying weed from anyone, and I would pay $60 for an eighth. And an eighth would last me like a week back then. Damn. Almost 2 weeks, which now an eighth is like nothing to me. But like, he was the nicest little guy. He would drive up to my house in this beat up pickup truck. Like, I guess he was like, he seemed like a really southern guy. Like, he seemed like his family was probably farmers or something, which kind of makes me think that maybe his parents were in on it, like maybe they were just growers. But he was super nice, always nice to me and my boyfriend, always on time. But then he moved away. He went off to college in Colorado, which leads me to believe that he may have been really young, but I'm thinking like he was in community college in the area, and then he went off to like real college in Colorado. But yeah, he went off to Colorado, and that was the last that we really talked to him because we only talked to him for weed. And yeah, that was my first weed dealer. That one wasn't that sketchy. Now the next part of this story is where it gets sketchy, and I do not advise you guys to replicate my past actions because they were stupid, and looking back on them now, particularly with a law degree, I am like, what the fuck were you thinking, you fucking idiot? Are you insane? But like, legitimately, I'm gonna be really honest with you and just like explain to you guys my second weed dealer, which ended up being the weed dealer that I used for most of my time while I was in the South. So, cheers. Okay, so when my first weed dealer, the little gay boy, moved away, I was so desperate. I was like, damn it, because we had been smoking weed at that point, me and my boyfriend, for probably 6 months, almost every day. We wouldn't smoke that much, obviously, because we were only buying eighths to a quarter max. And so like, we were only smoking a few bowls every day or whatever, maybe a bowl a day, honestly. Like, it wasn't much at all. But we had become accustomed to it. Like, we liked having it around, and when he left, it sucked because I did not know anybody else who smoked weed. The girl, that was her only connection in this particular town to weed, so we were like, fuck, like, where are we gonna find weed? And I know that I went to college and there was probably a bunch of students in my college, but like, I'm not a super social guy. I had my friends, I had a friend group, I was actually probably more social in college than at any point in my life. But even still, like, I'm not somebody who would go around like trying to find a source for weed. So instead, my stupid ass decides to download an app to try to find somebody to sell me weed in an illegal state. I'm telling you guys, this is not a good idea, but I downloaded an app called Whisper, and it's this app where you basically can confess things or say things on there anonymously, and people can reply to it anonymously, and then you guys can message each other if you decide you want to have a conversation with the person who messages you anonymously. But it's basically this social media network that is supposed to make people feel comfortable confessing things that ordinarily they wouldn't feel comfortable confessing. And so I downloaded it and noticed that a lot of people talked about weed on there. And so basically, I just put up a thing saying looking for 420 in this area, basically, like the area that I was in. It took maybe 2 hours and I got a hit from someone. And this person was like an hour and a half away from me, you guys. Like legitimately an hour and a half away. Super nice guy though. We text back and forth for a while on the app, like not even through numbers. We finally exchanged phone numbers. We talked through there. I kind of realized that this is a real person, like, you know, go through some details. I'm realizing like this is definitely not a cop, like it's just a guy trying to sell some weed. And so we're like, okay, well, if we can buy an ounce, that'll make it worth the trip. Since it's an hour and a half drive. So he gives us an address to a gas station and he's like, meet us at this gas station, which is like an hour and a half away. And so me and my boyfriend discuss it and we're like, should we go? Should we do it? And then we're like, you know what? Fuck it, we'll just try. Because like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, I seriously don't think that cops are just sitting there waiting around trying to bust people for purchasing small amounts of marijuana. So I'm like, why not? We'll try it. So we drive the hour and a half there and get to the gas station, wait. He pulls up in this car that, you guys, like, I swear, it was the weirdest looking car ever. I think it was like an older Subaru and it was bluish color, but it was like rusty and like all the parts of it were taking out. Like legitimately it looked like it could have been like a drag race type of car. The shifter on it was an 8-ball. Like it was like pimped out, but like not pimped out in a nice way, like suited up and then like ripped apart, like monster truck style, if you guys know what I mean. Like the interior had no like roof liner or like anything, you just saw metal because it was like stripped down to like the bones, but like this was this guy's car. And so he like comments on my car because I'm driving the BMW that I have now. It's a 2007 BMW. It's, I mean, like it was older then, it's even older now, but it's a nicer looking car. And so he was complimenting me on that and I was like, thanks. And so he's like, okay, well, let's go back to my house and I'll hook you guys up there. And so he's like, just hop in. And so we're like, fuck. But it's 2 of us, so we're like, me and my boyfriend are totally gonna be safe. This is so stupid, you guys. Don't hop into cars with strangers. But we did. We did. We hopped in his car and we drove around the block. He lived legitimately like super close to the gas station. So it wasn't like we were just like driving in this guy's car, like not knowing where we were going. It was like legitimately, he was like, it's right around the corner. So we rode right around the corner to his house. We got to his house and it was like the weirdest house ever. Like on the exterior, it looked like a totally normal brick little house and it had a carport. I feel like I need to smoke before this part. So we walk up to the door. I'm telling you guys, these Scooby snacks from this joint is horrible. So we walk up to the door and he's like, hold on, let me chain up my dog. And so he goes in there, takes his dog, I hear his dog, he chains him up. We then he like goes through the house and then lets us into the other door. It's like a front door and then like a carport door. So he like went into the front door, went around his house, and then opened up the carport door and let us into the carport door. Cause I guess he like locked his dog back there or something. Anyway, so we walk into the living room. I guess that's what room this is supposed to be. And there's a couch, and there's like legitimately like shag carpeting, and there's a fish tank on the floor, and and the fish tank is full of mason jars that are just like stuffed full of weed. The whole house smells like smoke. There's smoke in the air everywhere, and he's like, okay, so what kind of weed do you guys want? He starts talking about different strains and stuff. I'm like, legitimately, this guy had a fucking dispensary in his house. Like, no fucking lie. Like, it was legit amazing. All his products were lined up, all in these little mason jars. He had like labels on everything. Everything looked and smelled amazing. He offered to smoke us out. We were like, no, because we drove an hour and a half and we're gonna have to drive back, and neither one of us wanted to drive while being high, particularly with an ounce of weed in our car in a state where weed was not legal. So, we declined the smoke sesh kindly, and we purchased the weed. We spent $300 on an ounce, which I know is like a shit ton of money, but in an illegal state, honestly, it's like whatever, that's about probably what you'll spend maybe. I don't know. I think that I did all right with $300 an ounce, because I know I could have sold it for $60 an eighth, which is way more than $300 for the ounce. So I know that it's like still a good deal in comparison to the street value of an eighth there, if that makes sense. But yeah, he gave it to us vacuum sealed. Like, he vacuum sealed our weed, which I thought was the coolest thing ever, because like every other time I had purchased weed, we just got it in a Ziploc bag, but he like had like this vacuum seal machine, vacuum sealed it, sent us on our way. He was a really nice guy. I guess I didn't even describe his appearance, but he was like, just like, kind of looked like a country bumpkin. He didn't, I mean, like, he had all of his teeth, but like needed some dental work. Younger white guy, probably in his 30s, maybe 30s. I mean, so I guess he's older, but like, he was really nice, kind of country, but like super into weed. So in the town that he lived in, there was an Arby's, and we did not have an Arby's where I lived. So every single time we went, we would always get Arby's afterwards. And so now every time I eat Arby's, I think about weed. And legitimately, let me tell you guys, his weed was the best weed I've smoked. Legitimately, probably better than anything I smoked in California. Me and my boyfriend would consistently get stoned. It was amazing. Like, he was a top shelf supplier, like top-notch weed. Never got anything bad from him, ever. Like, I miss him so much because it was like such a good quality weed, and I honestly miss the rush of like going and buying it that way, even though I know that that's like so dumb, because like I'm so fortunate to live in a legal state, and I love living in a legal state, and now that I'm in a legal state, I will never leave one, because I cannot imagine living in a state where cannabis is illegal the way that I smoke now. But when we got back, he texted us and asked us how the weed was, and like wanted to know how it was in comparison to other weed that we've tried in the area, and like was super nice. And he ended up being my main supplier. Yeah, I would drive an hour and a half to go get my weed, because this guy's weed was fucking amazing, and I would always buy it an ounce at a time, always get Arby's afterwards. After that first time that he made me go to his house, I never went back to his house. He always just like sold it to me at the gas station. He would make me pull up to a pump. He would throw the ounce into my floorboard. Like, I would have my car door open, and he would come up and shake my hand. As I was shaking his hand, I would slip him the $300, and that would be it. We would just kind of talk there at the gas pump, fill up our tanks a little bit, and go on our way. And that's how I used to purchase weed, basically, back in the South. So a few times that guy ended up being dry, and he did get arrested one time, which I fucking hate. I think about that all the time because I'm like, God, I'm so lucky that I never got arrested for anything like that, because that like can seriously ruin somebody's life. That's why cannabis legalization is so important. Anyways. And my joint is like got one puff left probably. Alright, so the joint's done. But I have 2 more weed dealers to describe to you really quick. So when that guy ended up being dry and when he was arrested, we went back to Whisper and found another guy who lived 20 minutes away, and he lived in the projects. Like legitimately, it was a super bad neighborhood, like probably like government assistant housing. Nothing against that or anything like that. Like, you know, it is what it is. But it was like a super bad neighborhood. Legitimately, we pull up. The guy has his kids on the lawn with him. Comes up to my driver window with his kids and sells me weed right in front of his kids. His kids are definitely old enough to know, like they were like 13 and probably like 16. Like they definitely knew what was up. I felt awkward as fuck. Never purchased from that guy again because I just did not feel comfortable purchasing weed in front of children. I felt like that was just like dumb. And he would do it like right there on the street, like, which I just also thought was dumb. I just thought that it was just like not a good situation. So I steered far clear away from that one after purchasing weed from him that one time, and the weed wasn't even that good. So I didn't feel bad about not going back. And then the last guy I found legitimately through a friend at a bar, and he was a gay guy. He was a freshman and he sold us weed on campus, like legitimately on campus. And it was horrible, like legitimately a horrible experience. Like he was the nicest guy ever, and we were super desperate at the time. We just did not have a source of weed at the time, and so we would purchase through him, and we did it like 3 times. But legitimately, he would give us weed in a grocery bag. Like no lie, like he would like take a grocery bag, put the weed in it, tear off part of the grocery bag, and then like twist up the grocery bag, like a plastic one, and then would put the weed in that and then give you the weed in that. Tip for you guys, if your dealer is putting your weed in a grocery bag, it's probably not good weed. And it was not good weed. It was horrible weed. It had a bunch of stems in it. It just was not good weed. And I am ashamed to say I purchased an 1/8 from him like twice because I had no option. Like, that's why living in a legal state is amazing, because you have a bunch of different options of dispensaries. So if you don't like one, you can switch, and there's competition, so that drives prices down, and there's lots of different deals and incentives to get you to go try each dispensary. Like, living in a legal state is amazing versus living in an illegal state. But yeah, that's my Stony story time. Do as I say, don't do as I do. Like, don't go looking for a cannabis dealer on the internet. That's like not a good idea. I promise you. Like, I know that I've done it in the past, but I do not advise doing it because it is stupid. Legally, it is so risky, and like, you just don't do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this little stoner story. It really was not educational, but I think it'll probably make you laugh and be like, gosh, you little idiot. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys around for whatever stony activity or video I come up with for next time. Bye guys.